Show me your moves.
Quick, hide the eggs. Good evening, everyone. And welcome to another episode of Geek Life, your source for all the nerdy news you need to know. I am your host, the Dodd, the streamer this podcast needs, but not the one it deserves. And if you're new to the show, we're about a 2.5 hour mashup, probably a little bit tighter on time today, of all the pop culture news you know and love. We talk about your favorite movies, TV shows, games, video games, and Deadpool sliding down a stripper pole after Little Nas X. Joining me today is a man whose headband says Supreme, but his beard screams, my powers are far beyond your comprehension. Jake the Great, aka Gonzo Gone Live. How you doing today, Jake?
I'm doing well, Dodd. Doing well. I mean, now that everybody can hear us, I'm doing even better.
Yeah, I know, right? Me too.
How about yourself, though?
I'm doing all right. Definitely a bit stressful day, but we got it all figured out, and we're here and ready to talk nerdy with y'all. And emerging from the dark corners of Xbox Live chat rooms, bloody and victorious, Comrade Kev has joined the fray. How are you doing today, Comrade?
I'm doing good. Just thinking over life choices of how I should have became a professional baseball player. Not that I'm good at baseball or anything. It just seems like a pretty sweet job.
Yeah, it does. It does
seem like a pretty good
job. Yeah. So how have you guys been surviving the pre-post apocalypse? I know that I have been enjoying some Sea of Thieves with the Fattest Sacks lately. If you didn't check out the Fattest Sacks stream last night, definitely go check it out now. We had a lot of fun doing some pirate shit. But what about y'all? What have you guys been doing to enjoy the pre-post apocalypse?
Well, besides like everyone else watching Falcon and Winter Soldier, that's been kind of one of my Friday routines. Also picked up the Invincible on Amazon Prime, which is a really good animated adult show, kind of like the Harley Quinn show that was on HBO Max and on DC Universe for a long time. It's pretty dark, but then also like just really good animation and a really great story. So, and I've been playing It Takes Two. Which is a new cooperative kind of like a couch co-op, but then also online game where it basically is a couples therapy session all in one. So,
yeah.
Well, that's great. What about you, Kev?
Just streaming shows and I just playing some good old nostalgic Switch ports. I was playing some Super Mario Galaxy. So,
those nostalgic Switch ports. They're good.
I actually never played it originally, so I feel like I missed out. So now I'm just playing catch up.
Definitely missed out.
Yeah, I know.
Well, you can play catch up now, and Nintendo's been making plenty of money off the catch up game lately. So
That's true.
It looks like there's going to be plenty more to come, especially with the new Pokemon Snap coming out sooner than later. But before we get started, a quick reminder to everybody that if you like what you see or hear on the show tonight, feel free to follow us here at Geek Life Live or on any of our social medias. For even more of our content. We're really popping off on TikTok lately, but we do also have a YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all the social medias. I think there's a link tree in our bio that you can follow. You can also follow any of us on any of our personal socials. You can find me at Rusebane, WRUSE_BANE. And Jake, where can they find you?
You can find me at Gonzo Gone Live on both the Twitter and the Twitches. The Twitter and the Twitches, yes.
The Twitter and the Twitches. And Kev, what about you?
You can find me at Totally Awesome.
There you go. Yeah. And that's that. We've got a great show planned for you guys. Jake, why don't you hit us with that rundown?
This week's rundown is brought to you by Reese's Eggs, which you can only get that certain time of year. Reese's Eggs, literally the pinnacle of human invention. Not really. I wish Reese's was paying us. But anyway, we've got a packed show for you guys. And as always, we're going to be kicking things off with your top headlines from the week. Year 5 of 100 kicks off in June. We've got a new map, Among Us. And what's up with all these cameos, Doc? And more. But you're just going to have to stick around for that. Then we're talking about the fight of the century. And this week's Geek Life Reacts. Our lukewarm take on Godzilla versus Kong is here. And we're serving them up on your grandma's fine china. Next, as always, we're diving deep in this week's deep dive on controversial or confrontational crossovers. And I'm not talking about what AI did to MJ. And finally, we're getting festive in this week's Top Zen, top 10 Easter eggs of video games and movies. But that's enough of the rundown. Let's get right into those meat and potatoes. Kev, why don't you fall into this week's first story?
Yeah. Always great with the puns. Yeah, thanks, Jake. First, we got some good news for Fall Guys fans. Squad mode is to become a permanent feature in Fall Guys. Squad mode is a popular feature added in Season 4, which allows players to team up with others for a better shot at emerging victorious from a show. Got to get those crowns, guys. Teamwork makes the dream work. Hopefully, in a post-COVID world, we can all squad up to go see what's next in our headline section. Space Jam 2 trailer drops LeBron James and Bugs into a 3D simulation game, and our first look at the upcoming sequel. 25 years after, wow, don't 25 years,
I know.
man.
I know. That one hit me hard too.
25 years after we were first welcomed to the Jam, the Looney Tunes are back on the basketball court. Saturday, we saw the first trailer for Space Jam: A New Legacy, and gave us a look at LeBron James, the entire starting roster for Earth's best basketball team, aka Ready Player One Basketball Edition. The trailer is packed with references to both the original movie and to other Warner Brothers films, much like Ready Player One. Even the Iron Giant shows up. We'll have to wait until July 16th to see the full list of cameos, though. Next up, is Nightwing richer than Batman? Alfred's mass fortune now belongs to none other than Dick Grayson. But if Bruce Wayne being broke isn't crazy news enough, Rick and Morty is coming back, baby. Rick and Morty Season 5 trailer dropped and prepares us for the June premiere. You can now start bugging us about Season 6 jokes, Adult Swim, that they're announcing the trailer and upcoming season on Twitter. The announcement came on Tuesday that Season 5 of Dan Harmon and Justin Roiland's animated comedy will debut on June 20th. While there are lingering plot lines that the show is yet to wrap up, the Rick and Morty Season 5 trailer mostly sticks to what every batch of R&M episodes promises: intergalactic multiversal madness. Man, it's a mouthful. In the short glimpse of the new season, we see everything from Rick's, I'm going to hold my jokes, from Rick's version of Voltron to some kind of BDSM planet. It also involves Marlin. Extremely Rick and Morty. How stoked are you guys for the new season of Rick and Morty, Jake?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when this news came out, and of course, they did it in classic Adult Swim fashion, where they dropped a new trailer for like Rick and Morty Tiny Tots or some shit on April 1st.
Yeah. I'm glad that April Fool's is over. So now that everything on the internet's true again, right?
Yeah. Rick and Morty loves doing this shit around April 1st. And it's one of those things where they told us April 1st there was going to be a midnight premiere. And then the trailer ended up being for that Rick and Morty like Tots, like trailer, like tiny Rick and Morty trailer or whatever. And but overall, no, it looks like we finally got, Season 5. I made the joke earlier that it's Season 5 of 100 because, it's 100 years Rick and Morty and we're only on 5 years now. So like, my grandchildren are going to get some great Rick and Morty, if we keep going at this pace anyway. But it's good that the season's finally coming.
No, I'm super excited to see more Rick and Morty and like some kind of Voltron BDSM planet. I've got to see what happens with that. If it's anything like Sex Dragons episode, then I think there's gonna be plenty of jokes that'll be made out of it.
Yeah, that Sex Dragon episode.
My big question for y'all though is: do you think that this version of Lola Bunny will turn an entirely new generation into furries?
I think the first one definitely turned an entire generation into furries. So it's gonna be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what this one does, especially considering that they kind of toned down the sexuality a little bit. So
maybe that was intentional. So
right. I think the sexuality of cartoon characters actually peaked at Space Jam 1. I think Lola Bunny was the pinnacle of that. So I think that any Lola Bunnies from here on out probably shouldn't be nearly as sexual as Lola. If you guys go back and watch that again, I mean, there are some scenes in there that's like, oh yeah, I remember that.
A steamy scene where she comes out wearing nothing but a towel. This is for kids.
Right.
Like what the?
Yeah. And you're like, oh man, I have weird feelings about this bunny now.
Yeah, that's.
Okay, but the big news with this story though was one, Pepe Le Pew's exclusion and Speedy Gonzalez exclusion. Okay, Pepe Le Pew for obviously the fact that he's a fucking rapey ass skunk. Like he's
pretty rapey. Yeah.
Right. Like you looking back on that, we can be like, oh, Pepe Le Pew. Yeah, no, I can see why we should probably not move forward with that character. And Speedy Gonzalez has got obvious racial overtones. Like,
I've heard some clapback about Speedy though. I
have heard clapback about Speedy as well. Like, I would say that, like, if we're gonna say that we got a problem with Apu, then like, why the fuck we letting Speedy Gonzalez go by? But I have actually heard people specifically of Hispanic descent. It's like, no, I fucking love Speedy Gonzalez, and it's hard to argue with that.
And I know TikTok, I don't want to sound like, the classic like media outlet that's like, I've seen a ton of people talking about it when I've only really seen like a few TikToks, but I have seen a few tweets, a few TikToks of people being like, yo, I'm Hispanic and I love Speedy Gonzalez. He's kind of like, without him, we have zero representation in the Looney Tunes in a way. And so like, it's interesting that they chose to do away with Speedy, but Pepe Le Pew, I kind of understood. And come on. It's Pepe Le Pew. Like, if that's your favorite Looney Tune, what the fuck are you doing anyway?
If that's where you draw the fucking line. Like, you get bad taste in cartoon characters. That's for sure.
Aside from like the rapiness of Pepe Le Pew, like just like Pepe Le Pew, just his cartoon was never that good anyway. So like,
exactly. I was never like, oh, Pepe Le Pew's on.
He's trying to fuck a cat the whole time. Is that okay? So the end game is he fucks the cat. Is that what the end game? No.
That's the end game. That is the end game.
His skunk cologne everywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, but here's the part where it gets real raw though. Okay, so the Pepe Le Pew exclusion, the Speedy Gonzalez exclusion, right? But they included a whole bunch of random cameos, right? You had like fucking Scooby Doo and the Flintstones and all this stuff, including the people from Clockwork Orange. And like, if you're gonna talk about rapey and then like Clockwork Orange, like, I mean, they're not the same, right?
Cameo to throw in there. And another thing that I was like thinking about whenever we were putting the show plan together is not only did the Iron Giant make a cameo in Ready Player One, he makes a cameo in this. And dude, the Iron Giant did not get a lot of love when that movie came out. Like it's one of those things where like they consider it to be like a theatrical kind of like bomb, right? Like it didn't do very well. But for a lot of people our generation, it's a classic. Like I love the
if you didn't cry at the end of Iron Giant, like you're not human, right?
Exactly.
So like I mean, and
I think it was ahead of its time.
I was ahead of its time for sure.
Like before we really started getting a grasp on existential ideas in film and TV, right? Like I think everyone was sad.
Iron Giant walked so Soul could run.
Right.
We're talking about like grasping death and shit like that. Like Iron Giant like touched on those topics in like what was that? Like 93, probably. Like maybe later than that. But
it feels like 93,
But
something
anyway,
like that.
Kev, what did you think about anime LeBron? And do you think he'll be a better actor than MJ? That's the big question on my mind about the new Space Jam.
I think LeBron is like a walking, living anime character in general.
Yeah.
Basketball. So, but I think, I mean, I've seen him in like, I was going to say I've seen him act before, but he always plays himself. So he's playing himself again. So I think it'll be fine. It was like, he was good in what was that movie with Amy Schumer and Bill Trainwreck. He was good in that one. Yeah, he was good in that one.
Yeah.
I mean, he's playing himself, but
and that's the thing. How hard is playing? Like whenever they asked Jordan to play Michael Jordan in the original Space Jam, do you think like how hard is that sell? You just have to play the greatest basketball player of all time. Like that's all you got to do.
Just be you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's not all the headlines for this week, so we want to get through these. Jake, what else we got?
Yeah, so The Witcher Season 2 wrapped filming. Netflix's The Witcher Twitter has shared an image of Henry Cavill as Geralt, celebrating the filming of the second season coming to a close. Basically just tweeting out a picture of him holding this like sign that says, that's a wrap on Season 2. So Season 2 is finished. No official date as far as like when it's actually going to be streaming, though. But I'll be tossing a coin to the streaming service until then, anticipation. Next up, Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga has been delayed indefinitely. The Skywalker Saga won't make its launch this spring as we originally thought. The developer didn't give any additional time frame to when to expect the game to release. And so that's a real bummer because the Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga was essentially going to be a Lego-sized adaptation of all 9 films in the Star Wars series. 7 of them have already appeared in the Lego Star Wars world, but some of those are going all the way back 16 years. So it's a good time to get kind of a makeover. But if you do need something to hold you over until those come out, Among Us is getting a new art style and 15-player lobbies along with this new map. There's murder aboard the flying vessel. The highly anticipated Among Us map, The Airship, is available to play now. and it's the biggest update to Among Us since the game went viral in fall of 2020. This is also the game's largest map yet. The developer shared what's next for Among Us, including larger lobbies that'll allow for 15 players to play at once, which is huge. We can start having way bigger Saturdays or Saturdays.
we need to get like at least enough for like the small lobbies to be full first. Coming by.
But if you're tuning in, come on, you can play on Saturday.
Come on, come join us for Super Sack Saturdays. It's a lot of fun.
In addition to the large map size, the update introduces new tasks and new ways to sneak around. The update also includes free hats, heart pin, angry eyebrows, unicorn head, rubber glove, and more. Last but certainly not least, over 533 million Facebook users' phone numbers and personal data has been leaked online. The personal data and phone numbers of over 533 million Facebook users is now leaked, according to a hacking forum on April 3rd. As reported by Business Insider, this exposed data is from users from 106 countries, including over 32 million records on users in the US, 11 million on users in the UK, and 6 million on users in India. The data leak includes phone numbers, Facebook IDs, full names, locations, birthdays, bios, and even some included email addresses. Despite the list being a couple years old, it's important for Facebook users to be aware that they could be at high risk of cyber criminals using this personal information to impersonate them or scam them into handing over login credentials. So this probably could explain why I've been getting a shitload of calls from the Social Security services that sound suspiciously like they're in India. I don't know.
Look, Jake, here's the thing that they didn't tell you about this story. The reason that they wanted to get all this information is because they have a very important message to tell you.
Yeah,
which is that your car insurance warranty may have expired, and you need to your factory warranty.
Oh man! I know you've had beef with Facebook. So how do you feel now that you've probably also had your personal data leaked?
I still fucking hate Facebook. I hate Facebook now. I mean, like I have a love-hate relationship with Facebook because Facebook is one of my oldest social medias. But at this point, you really see how different Facebook is as an atmosphere now once you go on Twitter, once you go on TikTok, once you go on some of these other platforms, and you really see what they're censoring, what they're not censoring. Now TikTok is starting to follow Facebook's direction. I will say that
TikTok's very censor heavy.
They're really more or less like, we're just going to ban it and we're not going to tell you why, and like you can appeal it, and they're just like, that's cute. Like they just don't give a shit. Like, and that's what scares me about TikTok is like at any moment Facebook will at least like you can Karen your way into a reasoning, right? You can like, I'm going to speak to Facebook, and they'll at least be like, okay, fine. If the 40th message, you're in trouble because you made Nazis feel bad, and it's like, okay, fine, I know that's why you're like this. TikTok will just be like, was it that? I don't know, just fuck you, and so having now that I've gone on this big tangent, now that they've leaked more data, I mean. We need to figure out what we do with these large social media giants. I don't know if more regulation is the answer, but it seems like there could be something. I mean, and I think it starts with, making sure we have people in Congress that knows how to fucking open a PDF first. So that they can have these things and we can have these conversations. We can have logical. That's what the problem. I agree.
Yeah. I mean, it's just hands down like some of the people who make the laws, they don't understand it. There's a reason why we're still getting fucking calls about our car warranty. Like that's kind of the government's job to like stop stuff like that, to stop mass scamming in the country. Yeah. And they can't even do that. So let alone they're not going to be able to stop zillionaire Mark Zuckerberg over here,
Right. How bummed are you though for Star Wars being postponed?
Oh, me? Dude, I love the Star Wars games. The Lego Star Wars games are so much fun. They're so wholesome. And they're one of the last couch co-op games that you can really play together, too. They're so much fun to play with just somebody like just chilling, playing through all the Star Wars games. There's not a single word said yet you get the full story from every Star Wars movie. It's actually pretty incredible. That's cool. And I hate that people sleep on Lego games in general, because Lego does a really, really good game, or a really good job with their games. And so pretty bummed that this one got postponed, because with it being all 9 of the whole the whole Skywalker saga, it was going to be probably the one that I would buy, right? Because I haven't played a Lego Star Wars game in a long time. But like with all of them being together in this one collection, definitely was down for it. So it is a bummer that it got postponed for sure. But Dot, I know you liked season 1 of The Witcher. Are you excited for season 2?
I really didn't finish much of season 1, so I need to go back and finish all of season 1. I've just kind of dipped my toes in The Witcher. I didn't go full.
I know you like season.
Yeah, Kev might be a better one to toss this one too.
Yeah, we've been waiting for season 2 for a while.
It has been.
Yeah, it needs to just. I'm so happy to have seen this, because I'm ready. Like, let's go. The show is so great.
Ready.
Yes.
Well, I know that one thing that we've been ready for a while, we finally got this week, and that's a great way to transition us into our mod segment that we have here. Today, we're going to be talking about the Godzilla versus King Kong, which landed on HBO Max earlier this week in one of our first ever Geek Life Reacts here on Geek Life. Kate, go ahead and roll that intro for us. King Kong vs. Godzilla landed on HBO Max earlier this week, while also storming into theaters in both North America and the world, with the latest installment of Legendary Pictures' Monsterverse managing to pull in quite the profit as theaters reopen around the globe. With the latest kaiju crossover directed by Adam Wingard, the movie has managed to make numerous references to the past of these new iterations of Godzilla and Kong, while also delivering on a giant monster battle for the ages that might act as the curtain call for this Western take. Godzilla vs. Kong already pulled in over 200 million USD as reported by Forbes, while earning 11 million USD on its opening night in North America, hinting at a total box office weekend of around 45 million USD in the West. Though a sequel to the movie or an additional entry into the Monsterverse is yet to be confirmed, director Adam Wingard has gone on the record to say that they definitely have plans in mind for the world of Godzilla, Kong, and countless other kaiju, should it come in the future silver screen, thanks to Legendary Pictures. First off, Jake, I know that you've gotten a chance to see the movie. Kev, you are going to get spoiled during our whole review of the movie and asking us great questions about the movie. So Jake, let's start off with you. Let's hear your pros and cons and give us your scoring for the movie.
Yeah, I mean, just right off the bat, it definitely added more to the overall lore. I think that's why a lot of fans are wondering, is there a sequel? And it's crazy when, that's just where we're at right now in the fucking world, where like a movie can come out and like 4 days later, people are like, when are we getting another one? But like, it really is a really good movie that expanded a lot on the lore of like, I loved the Hollow Earth stuff that they talked about. And I can't really wait to learn more about it in the future. That's like one of my biggest pros of it, is that, it really expounded upon the whole lore of Godzilla, Kong, where these monsters come from. We got a glimpse of even more while they were in that the Hollow Earth part, of everything. And so I really wanted to learn more about that. It genuinely had me wanting more, right? And so the acting wasn't terrible. Mechagodzilla was fucking awesome. And so like it was just one of those things where like, and I needed to know more about that throne room. Are monkeys the apex? Because if that's what they're setting up, which I think that is what they're setting up, like
a big emphasis on the king and King Kong, right?
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
But it looked great on the big screen. I actually was fortunate enough to go see it in theaters. I live right next to kind of like a small indie theater that's really doing really good COVID precautions as far as like social distancing between the seats and everything. And so, I was able to go there, watch it comfortably, and it was awesome on the big screen. But CGI just keeps getting better. And so those are some of my big pros in it, is that, the fights looked good. It was a little slow in the beginning, but I think that was necessary to set up such a fast paced second half. Right. Yeah. But that does lead me into some of my cons. Some of the plot didn't add up for me.
Yeah.
Like the fact that, they kind of had multiple rounds of Godzilla versus Kong in this one. And in the first round, Godzilla really worked his fucking ass. And then they kind of let Kong just tap out. Like he was able to.
Also, like, clearly Godzilla has the advantage when Kong's having to fight on a ship and Godzilla's in the water.
And I know they couldn't just end the movie right there, right? Like, I know they had to do it to build, but like still at the same time, like the fact that like you're in a heated battle and Kong's just kind of like, yo, tap out. And Godzilla's like, all right, bro. Like, though, I'm the man. I could have fucked you up. And Kong's like, I know. Like that kind of.
I mean, the whole thing is that they're playing dead there. Like, I would imagine that if you're that big of a kaiju, right, that you don't actually use your eyes to see. That's what I would think. I would think that you use your senses more than anything else.
It's more of a sense thing. Yeah. No, I get it. And so I get that. But also the whole skull thing for me, like if Mechagodzilla was all robot, why do they need a kaiju skull to run Mechagodzilla? I didn't really get that part.
Yeah, and that part didn't make any sense to me at all.
And so that was one thing in the plot that really didn't get me. But overall, I'm still giving this a good rating. I think 8 out of 10 is where it's at for me. It was a good watch. It was a lot of fun, and like I said, in theaters, it was a banger.
Yeah, no, it looks like I would have loved to see this in theaters for sure. I think, and did you give your rating? Sorry, did I miss that?
Yeah, no, 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10.
Awesome. Okay. So I think for me, we share a lot of the pros. Just my general thoughts, it had some amazing fight scenes, major lore building that we talked about earlier, big emphasis on the King part in King Kong's name. And the potential for future sequels, I think is a huge aspect. A lot of people, as you said, were asking about that, the Hollow World. I do think for me, Kong peaked too early. Okay, like you get to like a third through the movie, Kong just found his home and he found his place and all this stuff. Like, just leave Kong there. He's good. That's really where he should have been. And then Godzilla had to come in and fuck some shit up looking for Mechagodzilla. Not even him.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, so I think Kong peaked too early, and it really just the fake Godzilla storyline that everyone thought was going to be to happen because they thought we're going to see Mechagodzilla and we saw Godzilla being a villain. No, Godzilla's just a dick. Okay, Godzilla is just like, nah, fuck. Where's Mechagodzilla? I'm going to destroy your whole fucking town looking for this one robot brain. Yeah, And Kong, being humanity's true protector, I think he proved that more than anything else in this game. So I still stand Kong, even though Kong absolutely did get his fucking ass kicked.
Kong's humanity's protector, but I think Godzilla's like the Earth's protector.
Well, I mean, maybe, but the whole idea of it was Godzilla being humanity's protector, and I think that this shows that Godzilla's fucking dick. Like, he doesn't give a shit about humanity.
No, it shows Godzilla doesn't give a fuck about humanity. He's just wanting everybody to know he's the apex. He's the big mother. Like, I'm the big guy. I'm the dude. Like, right.
And so Kong does have empathy.
And there obviously is some sort of like, high level thinking. At one point, there must have been a Kong society to build that fucking throne room. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And so I think Kong is getting set up as like humanity's protector, whereas Godzilla's on this whole other kick where he's like, I'm the apex predator and I'm not going to destroy Earth because like I need to keep Earth alive. But all these other creatures that pop up that could destroy Earth, I'm going to come embody them.
Right. I think that Godzilla also has Godzilla's atomic breath has the accuracy of a fucking stormtrooper.
I saw. Yeah, that is true.
He just kept on missing his shots every goddamn time, and like halfway through, I mean, like there was not one time where that atomic breath landed, and that was the whole thing. Everyone was like, "Oh, the atomic breath is going to be the whole thing." Like Kong was dodging it every which way, and then was throwing it into axes, and I loved the Kong that they evolved in here. I think that they took aspects.
Like, what the fuck are you guys talking about?
They took aspects of the old Kong, right? Because the old Kong was just someone who's obsessed with one girl, took it to the top of a building and fell off, right? So know that even that kaiju, even at that one point in time, has at least an obsession, at least an emotional capacity, at least something where it takes something and thinks it's delicate and it's going to be mine, right? There's some kind of emotion there, right?
Protector in a way.
Right, in a way. Now, was it the best kind of protector? Sure, probably not. But they took that and then they really made it very realistic, gave it more of an empathy, made it so that he can actually communicate with others and all this kind of stuff. And then I really loved the Kong that they built here is one of the big pros. Some of the cons, yes, I agree with you, Jake. The storyline was definitely hard to follow at times. Kong was the detour. The Kong detour was fun, going to the Hollow Earth, but it seemed very drawn out, and it seemed just to be building towards the sequel. And then it's like, okay, here's our sequel building part, and back to the regularly scheduled program of the big fighting thing. And so it kind of felt a little bit disjointed. And then pros, we definitely got the giant CGI kaiju fight that we wanted, with a very unique Kong, as we talked about earlier, and asshole Godzilla. I think we proved that Godzilla is an asshole. Being that this is what most of us came here for, was a giant monster fight, I think that it hits the mark in that regard. So I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. It's not a movie that's like, going to be next Shawshank Redemption or, Avengers 1, where it just completely changes the game kind of thing. But if you're right, if you're looking for a giant monster fight that you would expect from Kong versus Godzilla, you will get that expectation beat by this movie. That's my review.
Yeah, I'm glad our ratings were pretty close, because I mean it's about like 8.5. Like I gotta agree. Like there's not too much I can disagree with you as far as that's concerned. I'm glad we were all on the same page. I'm excited for Kev to see it so we can learn his review.
Yeah.
But do you got any outstanding questions now that you've heard that shit show of you're probably like a lot.
Yeah, so I guess my first question is that going into this fight, did you think that Godzilla had an advantage, being that he had his whole existence is fighting monsters, where King Kong is just chilling on the island, right? Like, I think there's like a distinct advantage there. That was always my worry for Kong coming into this, because Godzilla, he exists to, like Jake said, to be that balance, if you will, to be that ultimate apex predator, where Kong is. We are relatives with Kong, the Kong, man. So,
Kong has been chilling on Skull Island this entire time, while Godzilla has been, making his way downtown, fighting King Ghidorah and shit, And so Kong has been literally testing himself against every single thing, where he can't take a drink of water without getting a fucking Kraken attacking him, while Godzilla has been like, oh, I'm gonna only come out when the heavyweights come out because I want to make a lot of noise, So, again, Godzilla's an asshole. My big point of this whole review is Godzilla's an asshole.
When you're the champ, you get to be an asshole. Like, that's just how he is, I
guess so. Godzilla's the Conor McGregor of
I think he's just the giant lizard, I think that's what you'd expect from
lizards are assholes, I think we can all agree.
Reptiles in general are assholes,
reptiles,
that's where the reptilian brain thing comes from, right?
They're cold-blooded.
Right, exactly. So interesting. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm definitely. Do you think it was, so obviously you guys both gave it good scores. Do you think that it was like, this is like going to be it seems to be a recurring trend, like with these crossovers or something. We'll get more into this in the show. Like, did this movie seem like fan service, or was this actually like legitimately well done? Like, if you were outside from being like a Kong and Godzilla fan, right? Like, if I was just a casual like movie watcher, and I was like,
no, I think Dodd nailed it with, if you want to see giant monster battle, you got a good giant monster battle. I think the lore stuff was the fan service. That was for me. That was for like people who were into Godzilla and Kong. The last half of that movie, where it was just like fight, ramp up, that could be enjoyed by anybody. Right. Like, I think,
I would say that if you're coming to the movie looking just for the big giant monster fight, you can wait for the first one, right? Then take a long pee break, and and grab a snack, have a smoke,
go grab some popcorn, come back
inside. When it looks like everything's going good for Kong, tune back in. Okay, that's when the rest of the fight comes on.
Shit's about to hit the fan. Yeah,
right. And I think the story takes a big detour there, and that detour to me seems solely for ramping up a universe outside of the movie. And I do hold that against the movie a little bit, even though it was good. It did seem like it had nothing to do with what we came here for. We came here for Godzilla versus Kong, and we're watching Kong, figure out how gravity works in the Hollow Earth. Very cool shit. Very cool.
Very cool. It was
very
cool to
not
watch.
relevant to what we're talking about. You know,
that whole CGI Hollow Earth, like Kong running through it and doing the whole jump from the top to the bottom, because Hollow Earth's like a dome kind of a thing, like that was trippy on the big screen. It did look pretty cool.
Yeah,
especially
I
when
imagine that was trippy on the big screen. I mean, like it looked weird in this one. I was like, oh, has he got to figure out the gravity kind of thing? And it's very nostalgic to any person who's ever like played anything on a video game like Portal or anything like that, where like gravity shifts on you, where you're like, oh, do I just kind of like, okay, there we go, okay, so we're going now.
I'm stuck in a loop.
You know?
Yeah.
So, fan service in the way of giant monster battles, yes, you can take a big P dump break in the middle, and you'll get that fan service. As far as building towards like the monarch monster kind of stuff, I do think that they really, they didn't shy away from Hollow Earth, anything else like that. I thought that they would really kind of modernize the story, make it maybe global warming inspired or something like that. But isn't that trope kind of done?
That was what they tried to do with the older Godzilla, was that it was the human. Well, he's attacking us because we're fucking up the Earth, right? That was always the big thing, is that Godzilla's like, yo, like y'all like here to cull the herd of humans that are messing things up.
Are you talking about the one from the 90s or the original one with Elizabeth Olsen? And
there's you can't say the original one. Like there's like so many.
I'm thinking of like the 90s Godzilla, where like that was kind of the big plot, was that like he only came.
He's in New York.
Yeah. And he only came because we were global warming. I think that was the whole big thing, was that we were fucking up the Earth, and so Godzilla was like pissed about it, right? Yeah. And then, but we had to prove
either that or the day after tomorrow, one of those two.
We had to prove that humans were redeemable to a lizard. I don't know how we did that, but anyway.
We didn't. He just laid eggs in the stadium, and we ran away.
That's what happened. Yeah, he just laid eggs in the stadium. Yeah, that's right.
That's what happened.
Do you guys think do you think this is the way to go with these movies? Because I remember before, like, and I enjoy this style of movie. Like, remember the King Kong movie that came back out like 2005, 2006, one with Jack Black and
they've stuck
that was
with
one
that
of the
story.
best ones.
They've stuck with that story. That's this Kong is that Kong. So
okay, and even the reboot of Godzilla back in 2014. Like, I kind of like those sort of artistic, nuance, different perspective, views on it, and a lot of people didn't like it, right? Like, they want to see big monsters, right? Like, do you think this is the way to do that as opposed to the opposite of that?
Jake, I'll let you take that one first.
I think so. Like, honestly, like, I think like I like this storytelling version of these movies better than I did the older ones. But what was really cool about this one in particular is that it did give a nod to a lot of those older ones. When you go back, or when you watch it for the first time, Kevin, if you rewatch it, Dodd, there's a whole like scene that's kind of like a montage in a way, like in the beginning, that kind of like quickly goes over some stuff. And it actually even shows a picture of Jack Black in front of Kong, like when they first found him in that original film and everything. And that's how they're trying to say that he was actually a baby, an adolescence, essentially, whenever Jack Black found him in like the 30s or 40s or whenever that was set. You know what I mean? And that now it's in 2020. And that's why Kong's so fucking big now, like, and everything is that it's actually like we found him back then, and we've had him locked in this in this habitat that entire time, kind of a thing. Yeah. And so like that was the big kind of like, they've been
connecting
watching
the dots.
Yeah, and that habitat blocked out Godzilla from knowing where Kong was. That
Didn't
way
they bring
he
Kong back to New York in that point at that time?
That was the one, because that was supposed to be like an OG remake, essentially, where Kong scoops up a blonde and then goes climbing up a building. You know what I mean? Like, and so they did play into that whole thing again, and so it was pretty much a remake. But like, now that they've got the established universe, it's going to be interesting to see what new movies we get and what keeps coming. Because like, we got
Kong's really getting some good character development, honestly.
I know, really, yeah. So to answer your question, Kev, like this versions are way better than just your typical like kaiju movies of like two things just fighting. You know what I mean?
When are we going to get to see the rest of Godzilla's family? Donkey, Diddy, Grumpy, the rest of them. We saw a little bit of hints with them with the axes in the Hollow Earth, but we need a full Donkey Kong Country movie.
It would have been funny to redo that scene and then Lanky just come out like with his cane, like, or whatever on the side.
Yeah, like, like play me the song of your people and just like
he pulls out that old record player.
Right. The DK crew. DK. Donkey Kong. All right, I'm not gonna do the whole thing. All right, well, that has it for our review of Godzilla vs. Kong. If you haven't gotten a chance to check it out, I highly recommend doing so. Unless you don't like giant monster fights, which if you don't, then okay, that's cool.
I really want to watch the Matthew Broderick Godzilla again. I don't know why, but
that's that's a you thing. But.
So I was praying to the Lord. Since it's Easter.
Yeah.
Okay. And it looks like we're back. Are we back?
Oh, there we go. And it literally came back in with me saying I was praying to the Lord. That's hilarious.
Oh, there you go.
Happy Easter, everybody.
Happy Easter.
All right. We're going to try to keep on moving where we left off. We just talked about a lot of examples of some good crossovers. But Kev, what makes a bad crossover matchup? What are some examples of that?
So yeah, I mentioned earlier the Arrowverse. It's somehow both. It's both in the sense that it made the Flash and it created Legends of Tomorrow, but it also ruined Arrow. So that's a good it's both. So it's a bad crossover matchup or example. Another one, I would say Freddy versus Jason. But at the same, okay, so that movie was terrible, right? Like, let's be honest. But I will watch it. It's entertaining. And I think it accomplished a job. But the reason I say it's a bad example is because they both lost.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like that's, so and actually, I think, no, Jason won and then he died. I forget how it ended, but something like that. I think Jason killed Freddy and then Jason got killed.
Yeah.
We're not going to throw Chucky in the mix there. Freddy versus Jason versus Chucky. That's what I want to see.
Versus Alien versus Predator versus Godzilla.
Yeah, I was going to say another bad one would be Alien versus Predator. That's got to be on the list.
You think it's a bad one?
I like that movie.
They made a sequel.
It was just.
They did?
Yeah, they did. AVP Requiem.
They just get a little crazy with it, and especially in Requiem. I think the original one was okay, and they started to set up for some pretty cool stuff. But it was just interesting that I like Prometheus's background for Aliens, not that whatever the Alien versus Predator universe was trying to set up for Aliens.
I feel like that
you don't like
though.
the novelty of it, right?
Yeah, Alien versus Predator tried to take aliens and basically say that the predators made them as a race to hunt, right? And that was the big thing.
They said that they brought them to Earth to eliminate, to hunt.
Whereas Prometheus is no, they're like the apex predator that we accidentally created. And so those universes just don't match up. Mm-hmm. And I like the new Prometheus universe. And
see, that's the thing though. I feel like they do, or at least every time
I feel like it can still fit in there a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
There's always an Alien versus Predator game. There's Alien versus Predator. They've been doing
the franchises fit well together. I'm not gonna fight that. I'm just saying lore wise, I don't like how they handled it.
I feel you.
I have to go back and watch it again because I think it was just like Dad said. I think they brought those creatures to Earth, which wouldn't make sense. Why would you go to Earth to bring? Maybe you are right, Jake.
The whole thing was that they brought them to Earth, and the humans used to let them go, and then there was a great tournament, and that was and the Predator had to use their ancient technology to fight the aliens while humans tried to survive. And it was like a fucking pyramid or something. Yeah. I don't know if you guys remember this now. I'm just saying, you're thinking of the cool Alien versus Predator fight scenes. You're not thinking of the movies itself and how it set everything up, because that was not good.
I mean, maybe so, but if we're going to talk about resolving conflict in a bad matchup, you can't not talk about Martha. We did talk about Batman versus Superman. That being Batman versus Superman as a huge bad example. And I thought that was one that they set up the world around it. They set up great, the ideological differences. I thought when you watch the trailers, I was super duper hyped for this movie. The biggest thing I think with that one that tanked it was the conflict resolution. The big question you asked, who would win in a fight? Batman versus Superman. And the whole point we're going to the movie is for fucking conflict resolution on that one fucking question. And that's how you choose to resolve it with Martha?
I mean, we got it in a way, though. They did say that Batman would win that fight.
They did, pretty much.
What about the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen?
Ooh, I have to put that in the best crossovers, man. That's one of my faves.
Really?
I'm going to go against I love the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. That was one of my favorite movies when I was younger, anyway. Now, wait, there we go. When I was younger, I may need to go rewatch it.
I may need to go recheck it out again.
It's really bad. It's really bad.
But
it's a great idea.
If I'm giving my worst ones, I have to say another really bad one has to be the Simpsons and the Family Guy crossover episode. That was like hyped up so much and everybody was super excited for it. But it was like double episodes of like just nonsense, really. Like, like, and that was a primetime one. Another one that hurt is when Steve Urkel was in Full House. I don't know why they put Steve Urkel in Full House. But
what about do you guys remember when Adams West Batman was in Scooby-Doo for some reason?
Scooby-Doo used to get all the crossovers though. Like Scooby-Doo used to have everybody. Dick Van Dyke would be on Scooby-Doo and shit. Yeah, I think they had the Ninja Turtles at one point.
Yeah,
which that's another one. The Ninja Turtles and Batman. I don't really know how welcomed that was. Like
I don't think it was.
The one issue though I have with crossover matchups, particularly the confrontational crossovers, is the formulaic approach to it, right?
Yeah.
It does seem like a cheap trick in order to make money. Just, Alien versus Predator, Mario versus Sonic, slap these two franchises, put a versus in between them, and we can make extra money. Do crossover matchups lack depth, in your opinion? Kev, Jake, let's start with you.
So they can. Right. And because of the exact reasons that you gave, which is essentially that, like, if all they have to do is put two titans against each other like Godzilla and Kong and it put asses in seats. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like people are going to come watch it because they want to see like who will win. Right. And so like, the big crossover stuff, like it can lack depth. But then I think like Civil War. If you told me that movie lacks depth, then, like I would have to disagree a little because there are some pretty like advanced stuff in there as far as like the actual like conflict of
especially if you watch Winter Soldier, Falcon Winter Soldier this week. Like that all came back into play. The depth of that movie.
Exactly, and like the blip and everything. Like I think like. Yeah, there's actually a lot of stuff that like it can be an easy one-off, and I think we've seen those sometimes. Like I think like it's usually in TV and stuff too. I think a lot of the CW stuff is just kind of like just to get people who watch The Flash to watch Arrow one week. You know what I mean? And so some of those are just literal grabs like that. But then some things, it's actually really cool to push the story forward. You know what I mean? And so
we did miss two ones of like. That I think are the goats of crossovers than anything, and it's obviously Smash Brothers.
Yes, true.
And
confrontational crossovers. That's yes, absolutely one of the biggest.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Yeah.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, also Timmy Turner and Jimmy Neutron. That was underrated too.
Oh, yeah, dude, the Jimmy Neutron. Nickelodeon.
That was a good one. I will give you that one. It was a good crossover in general, for sure.
Nickelodeon did a lot of crossovers. They really did. They were pretty big on that for a while too.
Yeah. Well, these matchups often, because of the formulaic approach, have a bit of predictability and redundancy. How critical, Kev, is it that a clear victor emerges from these matchups?
I think we'd like to see it. It doesn't happen, so I'm guessing, and they still keep making crossovers, so I'm guessing it's not critical.
Yeah, but does it? I mean, like all the ones that don't have a clear winner, to me, do like lack a little bit.
The problem because
clear wiener.
When you have a clear wiener, you don't have you can't have sequels. So I think that's the other thing. Like if Batman had killed Superman or vice versa,
right, then they can't continue those franchises.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they still killed Superman at the end of that fucking movie anyways. Goddamn.
Right. Yeah. And then brought him back. Which really, now I'm thinking about it, I'm kind of pissed off now again because the whole Justice League movie exists because Batman was trying to kill Superman. He didn't do it. Superman sacrificed himself, and Batman's like, you know what? To keep up, to honor Superman, I'm gonna bring the Justice League together.
Yeah,
that's the idea they went with. Yeah, that's the basic 4-hour plot.
4 hour plot.
I mean, like at least Marvel was like Nick Fury. You know, we got some crazy shit that only the world's elite, superpowered can deal with. So let's bring them together to help fight it. You know, Batman's like, yeah.
Batman was just trying to build a defense force, and like, but that whole movie, you know, kind of like being a crossover, or like thinking of it as a crossover is interesting, because when I first, you know, I always think of like two franchises having to come together, and I guess Superman and Batman are different franchises, but in a way, it feels like, you know, universe. DC, Marvel's messed us up. Because Marvel has this big MCU kind of like whatever, right? And so really I think that's where they did. They made us think that all these movies have to be tied together and everything. And I think what we're seeing out of DC now is them slowly being like, we're going to try to just do these one-offs, because we obviously fucking suck at building a big, you know, kind of like crossover franchises and everything in together, right? Because their individual films are all better, like in my opinion. Like, so
like
Aquaman's good.
Man of Steel was a good film. I liked it.
Yeah, Aquaman's good. Wonder Woman's good. Man of Steel's good. Like, those are all good movies in their own right. And then, you know, Batman versus Superman was kind of just garbage. And then
you know what it was though, because they did those movies after they did Batman. Well, except Man of Steel, they did those movies after they did Batman versus Superman, where Marvel did it like the right way, where you build up to it.
But I think like it's crucial to have the fan service of like, we could have thought Batman won that fight, right? Because that's how it's kind of played out in the comics a lot. Batman's the big planner. But like Kevin said, the only reason why they can't have 100% clear victory is because then we won't get the sequels. They want the franchise. Yeah. And so,
no, I agree. I think that's a good point. I think it is, for me, the ones where a clear victor is there are better. And like, I went into Kong versus Godzilla, Team Kong. Kong obviously lost, you know, and that
a lot of people did, and I've been pretty humble about that, you know.
Right, but I think it's more satisfying that there is a clear victor, that there is a definite answer to that, you know, even if it's not my team that won. And so all you Superman fanboys that were so butthurt about Batman versus Superman, here I am, you know. I made it. You said I couldn't take it. Well, I can. When the shoe's on the other foot and my boy Kong is the one knocked down. But anyways, you know, the villain role is
Batman does beat Superman in the comics anyway. So I mean,
he does. And people just were being stupid.
Not to defend our TikTok too much, because I know we got in that, but the biggest thing that pissed me off is that I did the research. They have fought 12 times in the comics. Okay, they have fought 12 times, and none of those 12 times.
I looked up. I know what comic you're talking about, because I was like, Jake did his research before doing this.
None of those 12 times has their mother been the plot device that stopped the fight.
Right.
And that's what I was saying. People were trying to be like, oh no, it's not. I mean, he was being, you know, that's their name in the comics. He was just being true to the comics. There's 12 fucking comics of Batman versus Superman, and none of them were the mom. Like,
the point that's so bad about that.
They know who the other is.
Yeah. The point that's so bad about that thing is that
Batman knows fucking everything. He would have known Martha was Martha Kent. He knows he's Clark Kent. Like,
and not only that, like he's like, why would that change his memorandum all of a sudden? Do you think like he just like all of a sudden just fucking crumples over with every thug out there whose fucking mom's name is Martha?
We can do a deep dive on Batman versus Superman alone, so we got to move on.
We do, yeah, for real.
Because I was about to say, about to go off on my tangent, because at the end of the day, that whole thing makes no sense. People were trying to say it set up his humanity. Like, Lois Lane literally was talking to Batman. Like, he knew he loved Lois. Like, Batman already knew he had a human mom, a human dad, a human girlfriend. Batman knew all those things and still was taking the calculated decision that Superman needed to be put down.
Yeah, but just mom, save
but then
me.
Martha, you know,
fucking, Well, with that said,
the internet,
you know. The other part of these crossovers, and Batman versus Superman is no exception to this, is the villain role is always tricky, right? Either the villain is a mutual bad that the bad must team up against, or it's one of the main characters who's like mind controlled. They did that in, I think, one of the Arrowverse episodes ones. You know, like are side villains in these stories necessary to keep both participants as protagonists? What do you guys think on this? Jake,
so I think.
Oh, sorry.
Me. Oh, no.
Yeah, go ahead, Jake.
Go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, so I think, you know, they have to, in a way, have like a side villain because, like you said, they want to keep them both protagonists, right? If they don't have a big bad that they come together to defeat, then one of them has to lose. Like there has to be a loser if they don't come together. Or become the bad. And so that they end up like having to fix. Like you said, the mind control thing's been used a lot. Like a lot of superhero stuff is essentially, especially on crossovers, is that this is Superman with like some sort of mind control or something, and we have to like beat him and take it down because like Brainiac did some crazy shit or something, right? And so like the end of bad guy is usually Brainiac because Superman's not going to lose, right?
Right.
And so it's just one of those things where like I think they need some sort of middleman, right? That way the audience doesn't push back so heavily.
People can still be heroes at the end.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree. Kev, sorry, before we cut you off.
It's weird because most of the time, like villains and heroes complement each other, right? Like Batman and Joker complement each other. Superman and even Lex Luthor complement each other, I guess. But
no, they definitely do. I could do a whole breakdown on how Superman and or Lex Luthor and Superman are opposites of each other, actually.
Right. So then it's like, so then you need like, it's rare that one of either their normal like villains or arch nemesis, so to speak, become the main antagonist because you know they can't complement both of them, and that way you'll have this sort of imbalance. So you always need like this larger than the two combined force, right? Like bigger than themselves, so like Thanos or Ultron or something. And I think that's where Marvel gets to it, right? Like they always pick villains that the Avengers or the entire MCU cast would fight together, right? Like none of them are really going at like Thanos or the like one-on-one. They need each other. That's the whole point of them coming together, right? And I think that's where it is kind of imperative. And as Jake said, you kind of need that because if they're fighting each other, then one of them has to be wrong, as opposed to what they're doing this, you know, just to go back to Freddy versus Jason, because I think this is a good example. They're both villains, and
So you kind of want them both to lose?
Yeah.
Well, they did, right? Like that was the thing. Like Freddy resurrected Jason to make people more scared or afraid, but then Jason was killing all the people that Freddy wanted to kill. So then that's where their beef came in. I don't know. It's riddled with plot holes, but so I think that's maybe that's where it doesn't work.
Some crossovers
where you have where you have two villains who are. Well, maybe, I don't know, Suicide Squad, I guess they're technically, but that movie was also terrible. But hopefully the new one's good. We'll see. But yeah, to answer your question, yes, there has to be like an antagonist that they both equally need to come together to fight, I guess.
You gotta have to have that energy focused somewhere.
The middleman.
The middleman, for sure.
Yep.
All right, last question, guys. Dream crossover matchups. Like, if you could pit two people against each other, who are you putting? Kev? Jake?
For me, and I had to look this up to make sure they had never had a crossover before, but two of my favorite superheroes are Batman, and you know, like I'm a basic bitch in that aspect, but Batman's my favorite hero, and Wolverine. Yeah, they actually had comboed together where they made Bruce Wayne and Logan into a single character in the 90s. It was called like Dark Claw, right? Yeah. And it was over designed and over gritty, right? Because it's Batman and Wolverine together, right? Yeah. Like that's not like, but the individual dudes together, like, oh man, like I think that would be such a fun kind of like comic or even movie or just something to experience, because not like necessarily Batman versus Wolverine, but like maybe them having to team up and fight something, or maybe Batman versus Wolverine, which would be interesting as well, because to see how Batman would take him down would be, you know, pretty cool.
I want to see some space matchups, and I think space franchises can really blend well together because they're all in space and everything's possible in space, right? So like, I would like to see a matchup between like Samus and Master Chief, you know, something like that. That would be cool. That would be a
I
cool.
was literally thinking Master Chief and Commander Shepard. Like that was literally.
Oh man, yeah, that would be
Halo
a great
and
one
Mass
too.
Effect would be nice. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be.
See, I immediately went to comics, and my first one was obviously Logan and Bruce Wayne, you know, like Batman and Wolverine. And then I was thinking like a dope one also that's not really comic related, but show related would be like Static Shock making an appearance in like Miles Morales or something like.
Oh God, that would be the crossover of the century.
Yeah.
And that's Marvel and DC. So Sailor Moon, Steven Universe. That's one that would blend well together.
Season 6.
That
one would be
Universe wild. And like there's a bunch that Steven Universe would blend well with, I think.
Two movies that if DC and Marvel ever would allow me to like cross their franchises together, that it could make us a ton of money. I'm going to do Static Shock and Miles Morales. Then I'm going to do Jane Foster and Wonder Woman. And both of those movies are going to fucking pack theaters, and Daddy Jake's going to make a ton of money. So
there you go. Hire us, Warner Brothers.
And Apocalypse and Darkseid teaming up too. That's right. Just,
we still need to make that super cut of us saying hire us, Warner Brothers.
Yes.
We need to do that. Anyways, that'll do it for our our deep dive segment. But we're moving right along into our top Zen. Because it's Easter weekend, we thought we'd bring you an Easter egg hunt. And that's right. Easter egg is a term that's been used to describe a message, image, or feature hidden in a video game or film, usually an electronic medium. The term was used in this manner, was coined around 1979 by Steve Wright, the then director of software development, the Atari Consumer Division, to describe a hidden message in the Atari video game adventure in a reference to an Easter egg hunt. But video games aren't the only ones getting Easter eggs based on festivities. Almost every form of media has jumped on the bandwagon, hiding a little nod or even clues to upcoming projects in their products. So tonight we're talking about some of our favorite Easter eggs of all time. And I will be kicking this off with one that took almost 20 years to find. Number 10 in our countdown is the Spectrum emulator, a emulator that was actually found in GoldenEye. GoldenEye 007 was released on August 1997, and nearly 2 years after the film. The Crane cartridge size is about 96 megabytes, which is like 12 megabytes or something like that now. I don't know. Additionally, every cartridge in the game contains a fully functional ZX Spectrum emulator with 10 Rare developed games. This function was originally made as an experimental side project by Rare staff and was deactivated in the final build of the game, but has since been unlocked through fan-developed patches. And in addition to the Nintendo 64 game, a racing game was developed for the Virtual Boy, but was ultimately canceled before it was released. So yeah, there was basically a game emulator with several different games inside of GoldenEye. So a game inside of a game that took about 15 years after the game's released for them to find. Gameception. What do you guys think about a Spectrum emulator in GoldenEye? Can you believe there was a game inside of the game?
I have a cartridge of GoldenEye in my game room right now. And when I first saw this, I was like, damn, I need to figure out how to do it. Because that would be fun to like just go in and try to fuck around with the emulator. Now that I know about it. When we were putting this list together, actually, that was one of the things that I told you is that this was one I had never heard of, which makes sense because it took almost 20 years for people to find. So
yeah, it was a very well hidden one. It was probably more well hidden than the next one in our countdown. But the next one in our countdown is a fun one that a lot of people kind of jumped onto, which is number 9. Number 9 in the countdown, Kev.
Yeah, E.T. and Star Wars collide. Released only a few years after Star Wars by George Lucas's good friend Steven Spielberg, E.T. is full of references to a galaxy far, far away. The most obvious is the Yoda Halloween costume, which is also accompanied by a rendition of John Williams' Yoda theme. And like most boys in the 80s, Elliot's bedroom is full of Star Wars toys. Not to be outdone, George Lucas returned the favor several years later by inserting several of E.T.'s species during the Senate meeting halfway through The Phantom Menace. Take a closer look after Queen Amidala proposes a vote of no confidence. A cute cheering lightens up a political heavy scene.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
This is how the world ends.
I have a claim to make.
Okay. All right.
Very, very important, controversial claim.
All right.
E.T. is a Jedi. Prove me wrong.
Oh.
He can float things with his mind. He has healing powers. E.T. is a Jedi.
No, like it honestly, with both of these,
It makes sense.
With the ETs being in Star Wars, it kind of like honestly makes that the most logical explanation in a way. And we've never seen Earth in Star Wars.
Well, because it's in a galaxy far, far.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And ET was very far from home.
Right. Yes, he was. He was. Maybe
so. By the distance of far, we know that these things could totally be related.
And we also know when Jedis use too much of their healing powers, it can sometimes cause them to be sick. Like obviously, they're dying.
It would be draining the midichlorian from their system, which midichlorian is made out of the life force of all living creatures. If it's draining its own midichlorian count, then of course it would get sick.
Yeah. But I love that scene. And I remember the first time I was in theaters as a kid and I spotted E.T. just sitting there cheering as, democracy died or whatever. and I'm just like, it felt like the scene that you see, the big meme from fucking Once Upon a Time in Hollywood when Leo's got the cigarette hanging from his mouth and he's pointing at the TV like, oh, that's him.
Exactly. Well, this one was a bit more obvious, but it was definitely a really cool nod between two friendly directors. Now, the next one is really just a direct reference to the actor themselves, and that is a number 8 in the countdown. Jake, what do we have for number 8?
Yeah, number 8 on this week's countdown of Easter eggs is Pulp Fiction's quote on Nick Fury's tombstone in Winter Soldier. The MCU loves to mess with its audience by supposedly killing big characters only to bring them back later on or even in the same movie. Captain America: The Winter Soldier was no expectation, as it had Nick Fury faking his death during a big part of the movie, to the point where his tombstone was shown on the screen, and that's where we get this Tarantino reference. Fury's empath. How do you say that word? Basically the
epitaph?
I put it in here. Epitaph. There you go. Whatever. Anyway,
epitaph.
I bet you didn't think I knew what a googly was, did you, Dotson? But basically, his tombstone reads, "The path of the righteous man," Ezekiel 25:17. Which, if you're a fan of Pulp Fiction, you will know that is how Jules. That's one of Jules's most famous lines in the Pulp Fiction film. And so it was a really cool kind of nod for Samuel's character and everything. And it also proves that Nick Fury was essentially a mobster or gangster that worked for, Marcellus way before he ever became the leader of S.H.I.E.L.D. So he's got a spotted past.
The path of the righteous man. I mean, we could tell he had a checkered past. I mean, he's not got an eye patch for nothing, right? It's not like a cat scratched him there or something. But this was a really cool nod. I think it was something that not very many people caught right after the movie, but it was one of those things that you found out on a BuzzFeed article after you watched the movie. Top 10 things you might have missed about.
It's hilarious because it fits in so well with a normal tombstone. With a nice Bible verse kind of a thing. Like everybody, you would see that and go, "Oh, Nick Fury, rest in peace." But if you know the reference, it's actually a pretty hilarious nod.
Yeah, it is pretty funny. Well, while that one was a very kind of nod quote to the actor in a very, very meta way, one thing that was kind of not as meta, but kind of almost like an expected Easter egg, the golden Easter egg for any fan of this franchise, if you will, is number 7 in the countdown, which is Batman Arkham's next game Easter egg. What we mean by the next game Easter egg is every Batman Arkham game basically has an Easter egg that reveals the plot of the next game. The Batman Arkham series is known for a bunch of Easter eggs and cameos across Batman lore, right? But the most famous Easter eggs are the ones that they use to tease the next game that they're working on or where the series is going after this. And it's a tradition that they've kept constant throughout the franchise. In Arkham Asylum, you can find a secret room in Hugo Strange's hideout that details plans for Arkham City. So even when this game was first released, you can go through and you can find the plans for Arkham City in Arkham Asylum. In Arkham City, if you travel to the Falcone shipping yard, there'll be a particular ship that if you pull out your code finder, all of a sudden there'll be a spot where you can do your little code reader. And once you open the hatch, it leads down into a chamber where there's a bunch of fear toxin tanks. and a note from Scarecrow, note from the Falcone family, basically saying they delivered a whole bunch of fear toxin to Scarecrow, who's been off island or whatever. We saw Scarecrow in Arkham Asylum, but this is actually the nod for Arkham Knight. Because Arkham Knight, he's the main villain, where he takes over the entire town with these shipments of fear toxins. That's why we don't see him in Arkham City at all, and he comes back in Arkham Knight.
Wow, I remember finding that Scarecrow one and being like, oh, wow, what is this?
Yeah. Even Arkham Origins ends with an Easter egg teasing the Suicide Squad, which wouldn't have come out until earlier which wouldn't have been revealed until earlier last year, when they revealed at DC Fandom that Rocksteady was in fact working on a Suicide Squad shooter game. So they've been really consistent with these Easter eggs. It's kind of the big one to find in the Batman Arkham games. The Arkham franchise has always been known for really good Easter eggs, and even the creator of Arkham City says all the Easter eggs haven't been found in Arkham City yet.
Wow.
But with that said, this one's hands down like the coolest ones. I remember finding that shipping yard with the Falcone, the Scarecrow thing as well. And it was funny because the one that came out after that was technically Arkham Origins, but Arkham Origins was a kind of a sideline, like sprung up out of the nowhere project that Warner Brothers Montreal did because they knew that Arkham Knight was going to take a long time to work on. And so they didn't really necessarily plan for that one. So that one's kind of out of nowhere, but even then it still includes
combat's still fun.
The combat's still fun. I still liked it. I thought that the multiplayer was great, but I could go on about the Batman Arkham series for a while. But what do you guys think about Batman Arkham's next game Easter egg, making it as number 7 in the countdown?
I think you could have just put Batman Arkham series up here in general. Like, there's nothing but Easter eggs.
Tons of Easter eggs.
Even for like that was one of the reasons why you loved it, because you're like just basically traveling around Arkham City trying to, figure out. Well, some of these Easter eggs are actual missions, and it's just more into the lore of Batman. And you're like a lot of collectibles that you're interested in, because it teaches you more so about, I guess, the history of the comic books and everything. So yeah, Origins was trash. I agree with that. You know what? Yeah, Origins was trash.
I gotta replay them. I have to replay them because I'm such a Batman fanboy. I don't have beef with Origins. For some reason, but yet the internet tells me I should. So I guess I need to go
the same way, Jake. I feel the exact same way.
It was bad because they promoted it as your antagonist was Deathstroke,
and it ended up being fight him. Yeah, that was.
You fight him in the first mission, and then that's it. He's in jail for the rest of the game.
I mean, I was okay with going after the rest of the assassins, but yeah, I can see your point as like setting up Deathstroke as the main villain. You're right. If
I'm comparing it to Arkham City, yeah, no, definitely not as good of a game. Arkham City's fun. Like, dude,
for sure.
That game,
for
primo.
Right.
I can agree with that.
Yeah.
While the Arkham series is full of Easter eggs, they're a bit easier to spot than probably number 6 on the countdown, which is probably why number 6 makes it so high on the countdown. Kev, what do we have for number 6 on the countdown?
Yeah, we've got basically every Pixar movie. Some of Pixar's notorious Easter eggs are references to Pixar films that were still in production at the time of release, making them references to upcoming Pixar films. Although it hasn't been as consistent as some of their other Easter eggs in recent years, it has become a tradition for Pixar to put in each of their films a cameo or an allusion to a character from their following film. For example, in the most recent Pixar films like Toy Story 4, the Pegasus on the side of Barley Lightfoot's van is seen on the bouncy castle at the carnival, an allusion to Onward. In Onward, when Colt Bronco knocks over Barley Lightfoot's Dungeons and Dragons inspired board game, in the left side of a bookshelf, you can see a music album of Dorothy Williams, a human jazz performer in the upcoming Pixar film Soul. Even Soul has a reference to upcoming Pixar film Lucas, so it's easy to say this is a trend that's here to stay. Yeah.
Also, this goes down all. Sorry, go ahead, Jake.
I was gonna say I like knowing that the room where what's his name? Not Andy, but the other piece of shit
Sid.
Kid that Sid. Yeah, that in Monsters Inc. that they went into.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was a good one. That's why we had to put Pixar as a whole, because literally, and we only gave a few examples right there of the most recent ones, but this goes all the way back
Bon
to
Voyage is in Ratatouille and all this stuff.
Even it's been for a hot minute. Pixar, there's even nods to other Pixar films and like Finding Nemo from back in the day, which is crazy to think that that's like a classic Pixar film now. But anyway, we're getting old.
Yeah, we are.
But it's just they've just done it for so long that it's so interesting to see how it's going to keep going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, I mean, absolutely. I mean, Pixar has been the king of Easter eggs for a long time, and even this recent one, Lucas, as you said earlier, they someone. Basically, they looked for the Easter egg in there because they know what the next film was, and this was before the Lucas trailer even came out.
Yeah,
and I remember there was a TikTok. It was like, "Pixar, is this you?" And it was just a poster of the place where Lucas is supposed to be set at as he's walking down the street. Which is a very particular city in France or something like that. I don't know. Yeah. Anyways. But while there are multiple Pixar references out there, they weren't nearly as legendary or rewarding to find as number 5 on the countdown. And as the king of Halo himself, tell us who number 5 is on the countdown, Jake.
Yeah, number 5 on this week's countdown. We're literally going to crank the difficulty up to legendary for it. It's Halo's skulls. And Fattest Sax, who's in the chat right now, will definitely know what I'm talking about when it comes to this. Every Halo since Halo 2 has included collectibles named skulls in each of the game's campaign levels. Skulls act as toggleable challenges that make Halo's campaign either harder or stranger. Notable skulls include the dialogue changing "I would have been your daddy" or the IWHBYD skull, and the masochistic. There we go. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah. And the masochistic iron that makes every player restart from the last checkpoint if any player dies. So basically, a lot of these skulls were essentially, and there was the party skull, which would essentially, anytime you hit a grunt with a headshot, it'd go yay, and confetti would pop out everywhere. And so these skulls altered the game, obviously, and would take you out of the kind of immersion. So it was something that a lot of players did after they had beat the campaign completely. You would collect these skulls as you were collecting them. Then the big thing to do was to go back and replay the game with some of them active, right? And the ones like the masochist iron, oh my god, dude, it basically would make it where anytime you guys were playing throughout the campaign, if either player died, you just automatically start all the way back at the beginning. And so it would make essentially the game next to impossible to play if you were playing with somebody who wasn't that great.
Yeah.
And so every Halo fan remembers trying to find these skulls and what fresh hell they unlocked. And that's why they make number 5 on this week's countdown.
Yeah, they were a nice little Easter egg, and they were something that the people very much wanted. And so sometimes the sought afterness of the Easter egg makes it all the better, right? Oh yeah, no, 100%. But it's hard to top actual fucking Easter eggs, right? Of all the things. Right? Of all the things out there, actual fucking Easter eggs would be pretty crazy, right? And in a surprisingly meta twist, number 4 on our countdown, actual Easter eggs in Rocky Horror Picture Show. Actual chocolate eggs can be found throughout the Rocky Horror Picture Show, as the cast and crew had an Easter egg hunt on set and couldn't find them all. This was basically, well before the whole, this was still in the time where the idea of Easter egg was just becoming prominent, right? And for once, Easter eggs is literal. It literally makes sense. They had an Easter egg hunt on the show, and they couldn't find them all. And there's some that actually appear on the actual show. This sparks an interesting debate, as some believe the original Easter eggs are from Rocky Horror, which the term actually comes from the 1979 Atari Adventure game, as we talked about in the intro. While the Adventure is 100% the first reference to Easter eggs in a video game, some may say Rocky Horror is the OG of Easter eggs in general, but that's because it's literally Easter eggs that they're talking about there. So
Rocky Horror came out in 75, and having these Easter eggs kind of peppered out became a quick fan favorite thing to do. Find them. And so it's just funny that that's kind of like people like kind of associate it as the first usage of it. But most video game people think that the 79 Atari adventure game or game adventure is the actual like beginning of
this is one of the first
eggs.
Sorry, I spoke this wrong. This is one of the first references to Easter eggs in a movie, but the video game idea of Easter eggs came well before the idea of Rocky Horror. So I have to agree with you, Jake.
And so it sparks an interesting debate because of the timeline, right? Like people think that, Easter eggs came from Rocky Horror, but a lot of people believe that it's adventure actually, because Rocky Horror was an accidental thing. Yeah. They didn't really mean to leave the eggs on set. That was something that people noticed afterwards. Whereas in Atari's adventure, that was purposely put in there to be found later, which is what kind of, which is what an Easter egg really is. Yeah, right.
There's the intention behind it, right? That's what an Easter egg really is, at least for what it's evolved to nowadays. It's definitely something that's intentional by the people that create the art. Number 3, though, in the countdown, of course, is even more important than Rocky Horror. It's Assassin's Creed, particularly the Turkey Assassin. Tell us why the Turkey Assassin makes number 3 on the countdown, Kev.
Guys, Assassin's Creed 3, the Turkey Assassin. Connor might be one of the more stoic assassins in franchise history, but that doesn't mean he can't have all the fun like this Easter egg you'll find at the Davenport homestead. If you hide on a certain corner of the house and whistle, heretofore unseen turkey will appear. That might seem lame on the surface, but you enter the classic Contra mode. Connor will then feed the turkey, and a hood will appear on its head, making the turkey an official assassin. Apparently, they'll let anybody in these days. Guys, are you upset that we haven't been initiated yet?
I think this one's a super fun one because, like, the fact that I didn't know it existed. I played Assassin's Creed 3. I liked it was okay, right? I did think Connor was okay. It was one of the first times we got to use an axe in Assassin's Creed, which I was all about. And so, but I did not know about this turkey thing until I was making this list. And the fact that they let you do the Contra code, the classic, Contra code from back in the day, like to make this turkey into an assassin, like fucking hilarious, dude.
Yeah, it's like an Easter egg within an Easter egg. The Contra code is like a classic nod to Easter eggs in general, and cheat codes in general, and like it's a great mesh of video game lore all in one little Easter egg. It's nice.
Exactly.
Appreciate it. It's good.
It's fun. Good wholesome Easter egg.
Chef's kiss. Good wholesome Easter egg. But that can't top number 2 in the countdown, which is the Doom creator in Doom. Tell us why the Doom creator in Doom makes number 2 in the countdown, Jake.
Yeah, a little less wholesome of a game. Would any Easter egg list be complete without the mention of Doom 2 creator John Romero's brutal reimagining of himself? In order to defeat a monster terrifyingly called the Icon of Sin, with a rocket launcher in the final boss level, players need to shoot it in the face repeatedly. Nothing unusual here, right? Except for when the no-clip cheat code, it becomes apparent that the target just so happens to be John Romero's his own head impaled on a spike. Is everything okay at home, John? The iconic scene saw John becoming the face of Doom 2 in more ways than one. So essentially, basically as you're pumping this fucking monster called the Icon of Sin with rockets to the face, if you use a cheat code that allows no clipping to happen on the screen, it becomes clear that you're actually shooting a digital version of the creator who made that game's face on a spike. And so it's a pretty interesting kind of Easter egg that actually involves a little bit of a cheat code, but to be able to shoot the creator of Doom in the face for one of the final boss battles is pretty epic.
That is pretty epic, and it's a way to kind of bring the Easter eggs full circle. Doom has always been known for good Easter eggs as well.
Doom Eternal cranked them up to level 10, and they pretty much did like a skull, kind of Halo skull level thing where you find like actual Doom trophies, and it changes the game and stuff like that.
Doom bots,
and so those. Doom's always, that's why it made it so high on the countdown too, because Doom is one of those games when it comes to Easter eggs and stuff. It's just so well known.
100%. But it's hard to top number 1 on the countdown. Number 1 on the countdown is something that we all grew up with, right? It's unfortunately something that generations after us won't ever be able to get to experience. We got to live in the silver age of the greatest Easter eggs of all time, which is number 1 in the countdown, which is the Stan Lee cameos. Arguably the most important comics writer of the 20th century, Stan Lee had a hand in creating many of the Marvel Universe's biggest stars. He appeared in every MCU movie so far. He's appeared in every MCU movie so far, and some fans have even found Stan Lee pictures, comics, and even more in MC shows like WandaVision and Falcon Winter Soldier. Dubbed the King of Cameos, it's easy to see why Stan Lee makes the top of this countdown. He's a god among the comic book world, and it's nice to know he'll live on forever in the infamous Marvel cameos that he appeared in. Now, it's one thing that is really interesting here that there's a little bit of debate is, are cameos Easter eggs? And I believe that they are, right? We talked about the definition of an Easter egg is to basically something that hides a hidden meaning, right? And cameos is particularly Stan Lee's cameos. We're hiding a hidden meaning. He was meant to play a bus driver, but you knew that bus driver was actually Stan Lee. And it was breaking that fourth wall for a second to go, oh, here's a nod, here's a homage to the creator of all of these things that breaks the image of the story that we're actually telling. He's not really the guy that drank that one glass of soda that had Hulk's blood in it and make him pass out. He's not actually Hugh Hefner passing by Tony Stark at the Emmys. He's actually Stan Lee, and every single time he was there, no matter what he was doing, he was making that.
The fuck?